Hello, hello.
Hi, Valerie. How are you?
I'm doing great, Susie. How are you?
Wonderful. I always like to start by just saying you cannot scale hope. You have to scale systems. And so what I do as the president of Growthwise Consulting, I'm a sales consultant and business advisor that really helps companies to take them to the next level. I generally work with companies that are either underperforming, their revenue is either flat or has declined, or they have a founder dependent sales function, meaning that their founder or the CEO has been running sales. They finally have realized that, hey, what worked yesterday is longer going to work today or in the future, and I've got to do something different. And I don't know how or what that looks like. So generally, they'll call me and enlist my guidance. I help them to grow a, disciplined, duplicatable, scalable sales engine and set them up for success.
I'm sure there is a system, right, that you have in place to get them from point A to point B. Can you please walk us through those
Yeah.
steps?
In layman's terms, I build high performing sales organizations by optimizing the sales strategy, the sales process, people, and performance metrics. And the process that I enlist in order to accomplish that really starts with that first conversation where I ask two primary questions. What isn't true about your business today that needs to be in order to get to where you want to be tomorrow? The second question is, what are your biggest challenges? And what keeps you up at night? We all hear that question, but it is such an impactful question because it's a great entry point to start those conversations. So, really, an engagement or a potential engagement, and it's really all about chemistry and whether or not I believe I can help the client and if they're really ready for my help. But it starts with a sales assessment. First, a conversation. A potential client will take a sales assessment. I always start my engagements with a sales agility assessment that identifies where sales are leaking, what isn't true about their business today that needs to be, right? So it helps me to identify and diagnose where the problems lie. And then after the client takes this 10 question agility assessment, I have a debrief conversation, a second conversation with them where I share with them the framework. It's kind of like a blueprint on
Yeah.
what success will look like. And then we have a conversation as to whether or not they want to do that and fix it themselves, whether they want to enlist my help, or if they want to go elsewhere and enlist somebody else's help. And it generally lands where we start with a sales infrastructure, where I am building out all of the critical pieces to build the foundation of a world-class sales organization. Again, people, process, strategy, and performance metrics. And that generally lasts, it's a project-based engagement with the client between 3 and 6 months, depending on what the scope of work looks like and
Yeah.
how many deliverables there are. And then after that, generally the founder or the CEO is like, I don't want to have to do all this stuff on my own and implement it and execute it. Is there any way that you can come in and just lead those efforts? And so I am then hired as a fractional vice president of sales, where I will come in and lead sales for them. And I like to say, as any good therapist should say, you're not going to be on my couch for longer than a year, right? Hopefully 6 months to a year max. Because if
Yeah,
I do my job right, they're not going to need me in a year, right? So
absolutely. That's a great
my
point.
my goal is to get them, back on a growth trajectory or where they need to be so that they can replace me part-time with a full-time leader.
That's great. And I can see, I was visualizing basically while your system, right? Like onboarding, where do they need to go? The strength, like, you get to hire, right? Salespeople as well.
Yes, great question. So, depending on whether or not they already currently have a team or if they want to build a team or add to an existing team, yes. So, I have a great recruiting arm and a company that I work with. So, I will lead all of those efforts and help with the interviewing, the sourcing candidates through a recruiting firm that I love. And then I'll do all the interviewing, and then I generally propose two ideal last client candidates to the client, and then the client decides here's who I want to go with.
Amazing. Now, which industries? Are you industry agnostic or you have a specialty for some in some industries?
Yeah, so great question. They say there's riches in niches, but what I have found is my niche is truly sales. So there are a lot of very consistent challenges, business challenges relative to sales that companies have. And so I'll work with any company that has a sales or revenue problem. However, I do like to narrow my focus, and the types of clients that generally enlist my help are either professional services companies, accounting firms, law firms, a recruiting firm, manufacturing companies. Also, most recently, I have actually developed a specialty in taking a B2C or direct to consumer company
Oh,
B2C and
oh,
setting them up with a completely new B2B channel in their business so that they're selling online, but then they also have a sales force. So I specialize in that too. And then putting together all of the break even analysis to determine whether or not it even makes sense to develop a new channel in the business.
that's great. I didn't know that part. So I mean, there's so many companies that are focusing on B2C out there. I mean, millions, maybe billions at this point.
Yeah.
So it's such a great niche, I think. And then I feel like the consumer, it's smarter and smarter every day. What worked yesterday is no longer relevant today. And you constantly, have to adjust to those trends, right? Like, so comes your sales. Like, you have to be aware of the tactics, I don't
Yes.
know if it's, but tactics, right? That will
Yeah.
help you, be relevant to your audience.
Absolutely. And it is a very fickle consumer, and that's one of the biggest challenges that B2C or direct to consumer brands type companies face is that most recently or traditionally it's been just throw more money at digital advertising, social
Yeah,
media and such, but they're not seeing the same and as those costs increase, they're not seeing the same ROI. And so they're like, how do we continue to grow? And so considering that B2B channel and adding a completely new channel to their business has helped a lot of brands that I've worked with to take their company to the next level.
that's great. Now, could you please, and I was thinking about it, like we talk about tons of case studies, whether it's on my side or your side. Please share one of your success stories. I mean, actually, your client success story. Also, obviously,
Yeah.
that's your influence because your success story, please.
Okay, well, as we're kind of on the theme of B2C to B2B companies, I'll share one that I am personally very proud of. So, about a year and a half ago, I got a call from an M&A firm, and they had a call from a potential client that said, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. My company's not growing. I own a pretty iconic consumer brand. Company was less than $20 million, but a very well recognized brand that they built on their own through social media and an online footprint. And she said, pre-COVID, things were just humming along and we were growing and adding new customers. And then no one was wearing jewelry during COVID. And it really, killed our business. We were in Nordstrom's and we're no longer in Nordstrom's, and revenue has declined. And, I'm considering selling the business perhaps. And so, they said, well, wait a minute, have a conversation with somebody that might be able to help. So I was introduced to this client and still a client today, a year and a half later. And so the entry point with that client was let me understand what your business challenges are. And then I needed to do a voice of customer and interview a lot of the current customers, both consumers as well as some very small B2B like stores, wholesale accounts that they had. And they didn't have these because it was a proactive account growth in their business. They had a number of accounts because Nordstrom's was carrying their brand. They had customer or business owners, small business owners that really wanted to carry their brand in their small stores. Women call it gift and card shops, women's clothing shops, apparel. So they had some of those stores. So I did a voice of customer and I interviewed 25 of their customers to understand things like from a price point, from a merchandising, promotion, product, what do you like, what do you dislike? The next step was providing a debrief of everything, all the findings, and the owner of the company had said, well, I think it makes sense because they love our brand and they want more of it. So I think it makes sense to move forward. And I'm going to commit to this, developing this B2B channel. So the next stage was I build out the sales infrastructure. We had decided that the best way to go and to get the greatest footprint across the US in wholesale channel stores would be to hire an independent sales force. So we had 28 reps that we onboarded over a 3-month period. And I put together a sales playbook. It's a little bit different managing an independent 1099 sales team than it is a W-2. There's, less performance metrics and stuff. So it's very important that you know what you can and can't require
Yep.
of a 1099 rep. Got to be
Setting
very,
the right expectations, right? Oh,
yes. Yeah. Wrote the sales playbook for that, which helped as a great onboarding tool for this client, and onboarded all of the sales reps. And then within the first 4 months, the sales were up 54%. Obviously, it's
wow.
all completely new business. And now that it's been, quite a while that we've had these reps, I just recently hired 5 more and expanded the team in kind of tier 2 markets. But we're in 300 more doors across the
Wow.
US.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and it's
Wow.
it's really a testament to the great sales reps that we have on the team. So, and now I just manage that team. We have a monthly sales call and really understand what the customer's looking for. And it's so close that you stay close to the customer. So it's been a very rewarding experience.
Amazing. You mentioned, I love how humble you are because everything was about the sales team, but it started with you recruiting the right people.
Yes, absolutely. But, I think I have a people before profit mentality and people first. And I think as long as you're taking care of your people and you have the right people, they're going to take care of your customers and your customers will take care of your
Oh
profits.
my gosh, absolutely. You can tell even walking into a business, just the vibe, right? Like the atmosphere in there, that they get along, they joke around, they like banter,
Yep.
whether and you can tell this is a vivacious and a good company to work for versus, you go somewhere else and you can just feel that energy. This is great. I mean, impressive. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. I
Oh,
appreciate
absolutely. I think
it.
that your client should thank that M&A advisor, right? We say, stop. I know somebody.
Yeah, so I think it's just really a testament to considering all options. A lot of times our decisions are emotional decisions and we're, maybe ready to throw in the towel. I can't tell you how many times I've faced that with a potential client. And then when you enlist hope and you give them their hope back
Mhm.
and you define what a potential future could look like for them, it gets them in the right headspace. And it's just such a rewarding career that I have. I absolutely love what I'm doing.
It's so tangible. I
Yeah.
can I can feel it with you. Like the way you were talking, like where the desperation started and where now I'm sure she's like, but she must be happy with the journey, right? In a few years, where she went from almost selling the business to now being like thriving. Yeah.
And I didn't mention, this is another thing. We just got into Macy's and yeah, and even Target online. So the national retailers are starting to pick the brand up because the brand has traction again,
Mm-hmm.
and we're building out that B2B channel.
Amazing. Fantastic. As a business owner, you're going to hire and fire yourself 1,000 times.
Hmm.
And this was probably one of those moments like, okay, that's it. I'm giving up the towel. I'm like, I'm done. And then you have this, like in a net, like, the right people at the right time. Because
Yep.
otherwise it would have been just, hey, I tried this business and gave up. But now she went through all that ordeal and then she can reap the rewards. I mean, that was what a journey.
I look back at it and I think it was a journey because even how I met this M&A firm, it was literally an exchange of a business card and a networking event. And I had maybe a 60-second conversation. with this individual. And then she called me and said, hey, let's have a conversation. And they kind of interviewed me and got comfortable with what I did. Their understanding of what I did was exactly what I did. And so she's like, okay, I'm going to make this introduction to somebody that called me that wanted me to sell their company.
Oh, absolutely. And I wholeheartedly embrace this type. When you know what you want, you're very decisive. You don't need an hour. In 30 seconds, she could tell, and it happens all the time, you are the right people who can help. You're the right person who can help my client. And I'm sure it happens to you. It happens because I know where we evolve, the type of community and people we're surrounding ourselves with. We are very decisive in our decision, right? Like we know in 30 seconds if this is going to be the right partner for us, the right business partner for us or not. Everybody's great, but you can't work with everybody. There's a niche, there's an expertise. Yes. And I love the fact that we're all part of the solution, right? Mm-hmm. And I definitely love the decisiveness. She knew like 30 seconds in or 60 seconds in, you were going to be a good partner.
Yeah, I just want to encourage business owners to get their house in order, prepare for the unexpected, because as we always say, life happens when we're making other plans, right? So prepare, get the financing, get your house in order, build out with sales being the income or revenue generating engine of your business. You've got to get that right?
Yes.
You have to build the right foundation and then put gas in the car, so to speak, right? So you build the car out, and then the gas in the car is like the people that are going to make it run. So I just say, I encourage business owners not to wait. Unfortunately, I have had clients in my path I have not been able to help because it's too late.
It's too late. Absolutely. Yes. Delighted to have spent, the half hour with you and looking forward, to seeing you soon.
Likewise. Thank you so much for everything that you do for the community.
Absolutely. All right. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.